fellow marketers, Professor Wolters here, and today no, we're not in Athens, we're actually in Nashville. That's the Parthenon here in Nashville in Centennial Park. And today I want to give you kind of 6 tips or 6 things to remember when you're making a marketing research survey to send out to your customers, okay? So you can do a better job and get more information and more better information when you do these surveys. And the first word of advice I have for you is make sure you write your survey from the customer's perspective, from the respondent's perspective. Because if you say, hey, where did you spend most of your money in Q4? They're not going to understand that. Put it in their perspective. Where did you spend most of your money during the holiday season? Put it that way. It's going to be a lot easier for them to understand what you're asking and therefore to give you better answers that relate to what you really know about. Because they are not marketing experts. They are not the person diving deep into these surveys. They're just people that are answering questions. That's why the second tip I have for you is really do what you can to avoid technical jargon or the marketing jargon or whatever your industry you're in, the jargony talk. You want to kind of push that away. I know I said Q4 and holiday comparison, but this is even more specific because when you start using the jargon, sometimes they don't know the jargon you're using. Also, it can turn them off, okay? So make sure you're explaining these concepts that you're asking about in the clearest term possible, so therefore they do understand what you mean. Because this is where I see my students making mistakes sometimes or making confusing surveys because they'll be using the definitions we talk about in class. Oh, what are your industry key success factors? What are your core capabilities? Instead of saying, hey, what are the things that companies do that make the difference between the great companies and the bad companies in your industry? Or if you're looking in terms of core capabilities, maybe you just ask, hey, what do you all do really well? I mean, think about it in that perspective and it's going to help out. So those first 2 really go into looking at, how you're wording and how you're setting up those questions because it will make a difference. Now, my next tip for you is if you really want to get some really in-depth information and really learn a lot from your customers, you've got to give them the chance to actually answer questions, okay? So what you need to do is avoid the yes/no questions and ask more open-ended questions so they have time to respond. They can answer in a way that makes the most sense for them. Now, that does give you a lot more work in terms of interpreting what they write, but you can get so much more information from those open-ended questions that it can be really worthwhile. So my next word of advice for you is don't ask questions you don't want answers for. I'm not going to ask you if you think I should lose weight. I already think I know that answer, but I don't want to know the answer from you, right? And so the same thing works in your marketing surveys. If there are things you don't want to know or you don't need to know, don't ask it, okay? And that kind of leads into don't ask too many questions because every question you ask, every extra question is a question somebody might drop off at. Okay, because how many of you have had a survey and you're going through 1 question, 2 questions, and eventually you're like, okay, I'm done. No, you don't want to have any questions you don't need. So make sure every single question you have in your survey is answering a specific issue relating to a specific topic you want to know about. Because if you waste time on questions you don't need or you don't want answers for or don't relate to what your research is about, you could lose people for basically nothing. So that's why if you're limiting those questions, you also can limit on time. So try to keep that, survey short so they go through and then they answer it and they move on with their lives. So they're not feeling like you've really taken a lot of their time. And my last little tip I have for you is make sure you test your survey on somebody before you send it out to your customers. And you need to test it out with somebody that is not you, okay? That is not someone that really knows this industry, because the thing is if you ask people that are in your own office, they might work on that same project. So they know when you ask, oh, what is it with product 1758? And the normal person's like, what's product 1758? Oh, that's a Big Mac. Oh, well, why didn't you say Big Mac? By having someone kind of go over it, it can help kind of overcome some of the missing problems you might not even think of because you're so focused on making the survey and about your business and your company and your services and your products that sometimes you can't see the bigger picture, okay? So do have somebody look over it before you send it out just to make sure there's no mistakes, no errors, or no misunderstandings, all right? So I hope these tips can help you make a better marketing survey. I know they're really simple little ones, but you'll be surprised how many marketing surveys make these simple mistakes and really kind of take away from the effectiveness and the amount of information they could really get by putting out a better survey. Anyway, I wish you all the best. I'll say bye from here in Nashville.